What looked like a dusty warehouse on the edge of town turned out to be the doorway into a criminal empire that almost no one saw coming. From the outside, it blended in with every other forgotten building along the interstate. Inside, it held a secret so massive that even veteran investigators struggled to believe what they were staring at. This all began after a long, quiet investigation stretching across Washington and Arizona. Agents were following the faint trail of a white supremacist prison gang, a group that had been quietly building something much bigger than anyone realized. Their operations didn't stop at state borders, and they definitely didn't stop at ideology. For the right price, they were working hand in hand with Mexican cartels, one of the strangest alliances in modern organized crime. Every clue pointed back to that warehouse. No flashy SUVs outside, no guards, no sign anything illegal was happening. But the moment agents stepped through the door, the entire operation cracked open. Hidden compartments were everywhere, not sloppy hiding spots. These were engineered spaces built with precision. Panels that slid open with pressure points. Floors that lifted to reveal false rooms. Wall cavities stuffed to capacity. Each space revealed something more outrageous than the last. Stacks of cash that looked like they'd been harvested straight from a cartel counting room. Piles of weapons, long guns, handguns, ammunition. Enough firepower to supply a small army. And then came the drugs, massive quantities. Enough to show that this wasn't some local gang trying to make a quick dollar. This was industrial scale trafficking. Agents later admitted that the sheer volume stunned them. They'd expected a stash. What they found was an empire hidden behind drywall and concrete. Every corner of the building held a new secret, each more unnerving than the one before. Whoever designed this place didn't just want to hide their operation. They wanted to make sure no one could even imagine what was behind those walls. It showed the lengths criminals will go to protect their money, their power, and the illusion that they don't exist. But as shocking as the warehouse was, it turned out to be only the first crack in a much bigger story. Because while agents were peeling back hidden compartments in Washington and Arizona, another investigation hundreds of miles away was about to reveal something even more unbelievable. And what came next didn't just expose illegal cash, it challenged everything people thought they knew about how cartels store, protect, and move their fortunes. But the warehouse was nothing compared to what agents discovered in Beverly Hills. Just when investigators thought they'd seen the peak of cartel wealth, another discovery ripped the ceiling off everything they believed possible. Because tucked inside a quiet Beverly Hills strip mall, between boutique shops and overpriced cafes, sat a business that looked harmless on the outside, but hid one of the most controversial cash hauls in American history. It was called U.S. Private Vaults, and its entire pitch revolved around anonymity. No banks, no paperwork, no questions. Just a key, a locked box, and silence. It didn't take long for that promise to attract customers who preferred to keep their money far from the reach of any institution, let alone the government. When federal agents moved in, they weren't expecting what they found. Hundreds of safe deposit boxes lined the walls, each one belonging to someone who believed their valuables were protected behind layers of privacy. But once the doors were cracked open, the truth spilled out like a tidal wave. From only 369 boxes, agents seized $86 million in cash. Not imagined, not estimated, counted, bagged, and locked. And that wasn't the end of it. They uncovered piles of gold bars, bags of silver coins, luxury watches, gemstone jewelry, and even $1.3 million in Las Vegas casino chips. It was the kind of haul that makes headlines for months, except this time, something felt off. Prosecutors insisted the treasure was tied to criminals, but they couldn't point to a single piece of real evidence. Under civil forfeiture laws, they didn't have to. They could take first and justify later, a power that critics say gives the government more freedom than anyone's comfortable with. Things only got stranger from there. The warrant didn't allow agents to open the boxes or inspect private documents, yet video recordings later surfaced showing envelopes ripped open, paperwork examined page by page, and valuables cataloged in exact detail. One elderly woman watched footage of her entire life savings dumped onto a table, counted, and photographed. Months later, she discovered that 75,000 gold coins, her family's legacy, had vanished. Officials insisted nothing was mishandled. They pointed to dog alerts, claiming some cash carried traces of narcotics, but courts have questioned dog alerts for years, saying most money in circulation already carries microscopic drug residues. Even then, some boxes with large totals were returned. No charges filed, no wrongdoing proven. The raid dragged on for 5 days, and by the end of it, the FBI admitted that at least 175 clients had done absolutely nothing wrong. Tens of millions were still in limbo, waiting for someone to claim them, if they dared. Because claiming your own property meant revealing who you were, why you used the vault, and how much you stored there. Lawyers warned clients that stepping forward could cost them more than the government had already taken. It was the kind of no-win scenario that left people furious and terrified at the same time. By the time the dust settled, U.S. Private Vaults was accused of helping customers convert cash into gold to dodge law enforcement. Whether that was true or not didn't even matter anymore. The raid opened the door into a world where secrecy, wealth, and suspicion all collided collided in one strip mall storage facility. Yet after the headlines faded, one question, just when the Beverly Hills raid made people question how cartels hide their money, another revelation hit even harder. Because this time, the cartel wasn't just slipping past law enforcement, they were working with it. For more than a decade, the DEA quietly ran one of the boldest undercover operations in modern history. Agents weren't just tracking dirty money, they were moving it, laundering it, and funneling it through bank accounts they controlled. Not as a mistake, not as a loophole, as a strategy. The operation targeted a Cali-based drug empire known internally as the Picoso Cartel, a group dealing in massive cocaine shipments and intricate financial networks. The DEA's mission was simple on paper: infiltrate the cartel's money pipeline, follow the cash, and unravel the entire structure from the inside out. But the way they did it blurred the line between investigation and participation. Agents met cartel money brokers in everyday places: parking lots, shopping malls, street corners. Cash arrived in thick plastic bags drenched in perfume, a trick used to throw off sniffer dogs. Some pickups topped $100,000 at a time, and once it was in DEA hands, the real work began. The money was split, broken down, and slipped into bank accounts controlled by undercover sources. Transfers bounced from state to state, then out of the country. And to make things even more tangled, the cartel brokers eventually instructed agents to move funds into a Coinbase account, where it was converted into over 13 Bitcoin through a shadowy contact working as Bank, an offshore institution mixing old-school banking with crypto channels. For every transaction, the agents earned a commission ranging from 2% to 16%. It wasn't for profit, it was to keep the undercover roles believable, but the optics were wild. The same people tasked with fighting drug money were temporarily controlling piles of it. Across the entire operation, the DEA handled over $19 million in cartel proceeds, and after years of laundering and tracking the flows, only 2 heroin traffickers were ultimately arrested. To outside observers, that seemed shockingly small, but former agents argue that the real value wasn't in the arrests, it was in the intelligence. The operation gave them a front row seat to how the cartel moved its cash, who touched it, and which financial channels were the easiest to exploit. But something still wasn't adding up, because as massive as the Picoso operation seemed, it barely scratched the surface of cartel economics. There was a river of cash flowing somewhere else, bigger, faster, and far more global than undercover agents could ever track alone. And the next chapter reveals how one cartel managed to bend the world's biggest banks to its will. If the DEA's undercover laundering sounded extreme, it was nothing compared to what one cartel was pulling off in broad daylight. Because while US agents were quietly moving millions behind the scenes, the Sinaloa cartel was pushing hundreds of millions through the global banking system as if it were a personal ATM. For years, the Sinaloa organization, based along Mexico's northern Pacific coast, ran one of the most profitable criminal enterprises on the planet. US Department estimates put their annual revenue somewhere between $19 and $29 billion. Money made from cocaine, heroin, meth, and anything else Americans were willing to buy. And when that kind of cash piles up, you can't stash it in barrels or bury it in the backyard. You need a pipeline big enough to swallow mountains of money without anyone blinking. They found one. Between 2007 and 2008, the Sinaloa and Colombian partner Cartel quietly funneled $881 million of drug proceeds into American bank accounts, not through shady street dealers or shadow brokers, through major institutions with glass skyscrapers, marble lobbies, and executives in $1,000 suits. At HSBC's Mexican branches, cartel money couriers were reportedly allowed to walk in carrying boxes perfectly sized to slide through teller windows. Those boxes weren't filled with paperwork, they were stuffed with cash, hundreds of thousands of dollars per visit. Some days the deposits were so overwhelming that internally compliance warnings were triggered and ignored. Investigators later discovered that HSBC's Mexican affiliate had wired more than $7 billion into US accounts in New York, most of it completely unvetted. Anti-money laundering rules were treated like optional suggestions. Alerts piled up, nobody acted, and all that cash generated massive fees, the kind corporations love and criminals can't believe they're getting away with. Meanwhile, in Mexico's city of Culiacan, the cartel's home turf, the money moved so openly that locals thought it was normal. Office buildings buzzed with laundering operations disguised as legitimate businesses. Luxury cars rolled in and out of storefronts that never seemed to sell anything. The whole ecosystem ran like a corporate giant, one built on secrecy, fear, and unimaginable cash flow. When US investigators finally cracked down, the fallout was enormous. HSBC was hit with $1.9 billion in penalties, one of the largest financial crime settlements in American history. The bank overhauled its entire compliance structure, hiring thousands of new staff and upgrading monitoring systems under federal pressure. But here's the chilling part. Even after the fines, even after the reforms, even after new laws and tighter controls, cartel money didn't stop flowing. It just found new cracks to slip through. And HSBC SBC wasn't the only institution caught in the undertow. Wachovia was busted in 2010 for helping move at least $110 million in cartel funds through Mexican currency exchanges. Bank of America got entangled in a scheme where Zeta's members laundered money through a Texas racehorse operation. Western Union tightened safeguards after investigators flagged suspicious transfers along the southwest border. No matter how many gaps were sealed, new ones opened. Cartel cash behaved like water seeping through rock, persistent, quiet, unstoppable. And here's the wild twist. Long before headlines exposed cartel cash flowing through global banks, one man had already mastered the money game on a level the world had never seen. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria didn't just build a criminal empire. He built an economic force so massive it warped entire countries. And the wildest part is that Escobar's biggest problem wasn't making money, it was finding somewhere to put it. Escobar's rise didn't start with cocaine or kingpin ambitions. He grew up the son of a farmer and a school teacher, hustling his way through Colombia with every scheme he could think of. Fake diplomas, stolen tombstones, smuggled cars. But in the mid-1970s, he stumbled into the business that would change history, the booming, unregulated cocaine trade. By the early 1980s, Escobar's Medellin cartel controlled a pipeline stretching from jungle labs in Colombia to secret airstrips, Miami nightclubs, and Los Angeles safe houses. At its peak, the cartel brought in an estimated $420 million every week. Escobar's personal wealth soared past $30 billion, enough for Forbes to rank him among the richest men alive. But unimaginable wealth brings unimaginable problems. Storing that kind of money turned into a logistical nightmare. Colombian banks wouldn't touch it. Foreign banks were risky. And the cash itself became a burden, a living, breathing monster that grew faster than Escobar could hide it. Warehouse storage didn't work. Rats chewed through stacks of bills. Mold destroyed entire fortunes. Escobar's brother later admitted the cartel lost nearly 10% of its profits every year, not to law enforcement, but to rodents, moisture, and plain old misplacement. That's how big the operation was. Billions lost and no one even blinked. The stories from those years feel unreal. During a desperate winter on the run, Escobar burned $2 million in cash just to keep his daughter warm. And that wasn't a dramatic gesture. It was practical. He literally had more money than he could use. But Escobar finally figured out a solution, one so strange and effective that it created one of the biggest treasure mysteries on the planet. He began burying his fortune. Fields, jungles, mountains, farms, ranches, safe houses, anywhere he controlled land. He turned the soil into a secret vault. Barrels and crates stuffed with US dollars were buried in remote spots with only a handful of trusted men knowing the coordinates. Some drew crude maps, others memorized locations. A few were eliminated before they could talk, and when the war against the Medellin cartel erupted, many of those hiding places were forgotten forever. Meanwhile, Escobar's power became absolute. He bribed politicians, threatened judges, and put bounties on police officers. His infamous rule, plata o plomo, silver or lead, left an entire nation trapped between bribery and bloodshed. When the Colombian government pushed back, he made an offer no criminal had ever made. He'd pay off Colombia's entire national debt if they guaranteed he wouldn't be extradited to the US. And unbelievably, the government almost considered it. In 1991, under heavy pressure, he surrendered. But in true Escobar fashion, he built his own prison, La Catedral, complete with a bar, a waterfall, a soccer field, and communication systems so advanced he continued running the cartel from inside. When Colombia tried to transfer him to a real facility, he escaped, triggering one of the biggest manhunts of the decade. It ended on December 2nd, 1993. Tracked to a rooftop hideout, Escobar was fatally shot while trying to flee. Some people believe the bullet that killed him came from his own gun, choosing death on his home turf over a US prison. After his death, the government seized every mansion, ranch, plane, and safe house they could find. Rivals scavenged the rest. His family fled under new identities with almost nothing. But even after the seizures, even after the raids, even after the estate liquidations, something didn't add up. Authorities estimated more than $10 billion of Escobar's fortune was still missing. Not burned, not stolen, not seized, just buried, rotting beneath soil and concrete, waiting for someone to find it. And decades later, the strangest thing happened. People did, because the moment Escobar's buried millions started resurfacing, Colombia found itself at the center of a real-life gold rush like no one had ever seen before. For years, Escobar's buried fortune sounded like a myth, a wild story told by old cartel insiders and whispered about in Colombian towns that remembered the chaos he left behind. But that illusion shattered the moment people started digging and actually finding the money. It began quietly. Farmers plowing remote fields stumbled on strange metal drums. Construction crews digging foundations hit hardened containers buried deeper than any utility line. At first, locals assumed it was scrap or old building material until they pried open the lids and saw the truth. Inside were stacks of US $100 bills wrapped wrapped in rubber bands, stiff from age and stained by decades underground. Some bundles crumbled at the touch, others were shockingly intact. In one discovery, a farmer uncovered nearly $600,000 in cash, part of a stash Escobar had hidden more than 30 years ago. And he wasn't the only one. Word spread fast, not publicly, nobody wanted the government showing up, but through whispered conversations, phone calls, and late-night meetings in dimly lit kitchens. The countryside turned into a silent treasure map, with rumors of buried containers in ranches, forests, abandoned cartel safe houses, and even under the floors of homes that once belonged to Escobar's inner circle. But the biggest shock came when Escobar's former hitman, a man known as Popeye, admitted publicly that Escobar had hidden mountains of money in places so remote that he didn't even remember all the coordinates. According to him, Escobar would take trusted men into the jungle at night, bury cash under layers of dirt and vegetation, then erase any trace of the dig. Only a few were ever told the location, and most of those men didn't survive the cartel wars. The Colombian government started uncovering caches of its own. During land seizures tied to Escobar's old network, officials stumbled on buried bundles in ranches that had long since fallen apart. In one case, a construction crew renovating a former narco estate found $18 million hidden behind a false wall. It had sat untouched long enough for entire stacks to rot beyond recognition. And then, there was the discovery that truly left investigators speechless. A stash so enormous, it changed what people thought they knew about Escobar's financial reach. Crews found barrels packed so tightly with bills that they had fused into dense blocks, preserved by time, heat, and pressure. Some containers held millions, others contained weapons, documents, and notes detailing deals that never made the history books. Escobar's brother later admitted that the cartel used to lose money in the jungle, the way normal people lose spare change under a couch. They moved cash in such massive amounts that forgetting a few million here and there wasn't unusual. But now those forgotten millions were resurfacing, and they were only the beginning, because every time investigators uncovered a hidden stash, it raised the same question. If these millions survive, how much is still out there? Theories exploded. Some claimed Escobar buried money in Mexico, Panama, or Nicaragua during the height of his operations. Others believed he hid cash on private islands or inside abandoned smuggling tunnels. A few even argued that some of the fortune was never buried at all, but converted into gold and stored in locations only Escobar knew. But one rumor stood above. For decades, investigators, locals, and even former cartel members have whispered about one place, a location so mysterious, so heavily rumored, that it became known simply as La Bóveda, the vault. According to those who claim to know, Escobar built it during the peak of the Medellin cartel's power, when his empire was so large that burying money in fields wasn't enough. He needed something bigger, something permanent, something that couldn't be stumbled upon by a passing farmer or washed away by a rainy season. So the story goes like this. Deep in the mountains outside Medellin, Escobar commissioned engineers, not cartel men, but actual trained engineers, to carve out a hidden bunker. The entrance, they said, was disguised behind a false rock formation accessible only by a narrow footpath known to a handful of people. The inside was reinforced with concrete, steel beams, and enough ventilation to survive decades underground. What went inside the vault? That's where the rumors get wild and strangely consistent. Some claim it held hundreds of millions of dollars in US dollars, packed inside climate-controlled chambers to prevent decay. Others insist Escobar stored gold bars, smuggled emeralds, and even ledgers naming every politician, officer, and businessman who took his money. A few former associates described crates of weapons, encrypted radios, and documents that would damage powerful families even today. But the most unsettling rumor, that the vault was rigged, not with a simple alarm, not with cameras, with explosives, enough to collapse the entire mountainside if anyone tried to break in without knowing the exact procedure. Colombian intelligence agents heard these stories for years. Some dismissed them as myth. Others believed the vault was real, but long destroyed, either by Escobar himself or by his enemies after his death. A few former investigators quietly admitted they tried to locate it using drones, imaging equipment, even satellite scans, but never found anything conclusive. And yet, the sightings continued. Hikers reported hearing strange metallic echoes under the ground. Farmers claimed men with military-grade rifles showed up at night, set up roadblocks, and vanished at dawn. A group of treasure hunters once swore they found a reinforced steel panel buried beneath 2 feet of soil before being chased away by unknown gunmen. Even more chilling is what Escobar's nephew once said in a televised interview. Pablo had places nobody has ever found, places only he knew. If they ever open them, they will rewrite the history of Colombia. When journalists pressed him, he refused to elaborate. So the legend grew. A hidden bunker in the mountains, possibly still intact, possibly still full. Nobody could prove it exists, but nobody could disprove it either. And the more people searched for it, the more dangerous the mountain became. Because if the vault is real, then the stakes are bigger than treasure, much bigger. Because Escobar didn't just bury wealth, he buried secrets. Secrets powerful enough to topple governments, dissolve alliances, and ignite old wars that Colombia has spent decades trying to forget. And according to those who follow the clues, the mountain vault is only part of the mystery, because Escobar's fortune didn't just vanish into the jungle. A significant part of it might not be in Colombia at all. It may have crossed borders, oceans, and decades, hidden in a place nobody ever expected, a place connected not to the jungle, but to the United States. While the mountain vault legends haunted Colombia, a different trail of Escobar's fortune quietly wound its way north into the United States. Long before authorities were uncovering hidden barrels in Medellin, investigators noticed unusual patterns in cities like Miami, Los Angeles, and New York. Luxury real estate purchases, anonymous safe deposit boxes, and accounts that appeared and vanished without explanation painted a picture of wealth moving quietly across the border. The operation wasn't just about cash. Escobar and his network understood something most people didn't. Money is power, but secrecy multiplies it. By moving wealth into private vaults, corporate fronts, and shell companies, the cartel insulated itself from prying eyes while maintaining absolute control. One infamous case involved the Beverly Hills Safe Deposit Company, which had been quietly marketing anonymity to clients for years. Agents later discovered that the vaults contained millions in cash, gold, luxury watches, and even casino chips, with some boxes holding sums so large that investigators initially doubted their eyes. But this wasn't a random stash. It was an organized system for hiding cartel assets within the heart of America's wealthiest enclaves. Federal agencies launched coordinated raids, uncovering hundreds of boxes linked to alleged money laundering and drug trafficking. Yet the story became murkier the deeper they dug. Many clients had no criminal record, no evidence of wrongdoing, and yet their assets were seized under civil forfeiture laws. The operation revealed the uneasy balance between law enforcement power and private property rights, but it also hinted at something larger, a methodical, decades-long migration of Escobar's empire from Colombia to U.S. soil. The DEA's undercover work had confirmed it. Agents embedded themselves in money laundering networks, following cash flows, digital currencies, and even cryptocurrency transactions tied to cartel operations. Over the years, millions of dollars in illicit proceeds were routed through accounts, vaults, and even Coinbase wallets, generating leads that exposed networks nobody outside the organization could have traced. By the time federal investigators pieced together the picture, the scale was staggering. Escobar's influence wasn't confined to Colombia. His wealth had become a transnational force, quietly shaping markets, fueling illicit activity, and leaving a trail of mystery in its wake. And yet, even as raids emptied vaults and frozen accounts revealed their contents, insiders whispered a chilling truth. The majority of the fortune had never touched U.S. soil. Instead, it had been divided, dispersed, and hidden in ways that could outlast decades of investigation. Decades after Pablo Escobar's death, his empire refuses to vanish. The fortune he built, the networks he created, and the fear he inspired still rippled through Colombia, the United States, and beyond. Every barrel of cash unearthed, every vault cracked open, every stash uncovered is just a fragment of a story that continues to unfold. A story where wealth, power, and danger are inseparable. Treasure hunters, journalists, and law enforcement alike continue to chase whispers of hidden millions, following old maps, encrypted ledgers, and the faintest clues left behind in forgotten letters, property records, and jungle trails. Each discovery offers sudden fortune, but always comes with a price. Landmines, traps, rival seekers, and the persistent shadow of the cartels turn every step into a high-stakes gamble. Even as Colombia attempts to reclaim Escobar's wealth for social programs, portions of his fortune quietly circulate, shaping towns, families, and economies in ways few outsiders can imagine. Farmers stumble upon hidden barrels. Entire communities experience sudden, temporary prosperity. Informal money changers clean, press, and funnel old currency back into circulation. Escobar's money is alive, moving invisibly like groundwater, reshaping lives decades after he died. The U.S. connection tells a similar story. From safe deposit boxes in Beverly Hills to crypto wallets managed by undercover agents, Escobar's wealth has flowed across borders, sometimes under the radar, sometimes exposed in dramatic raids. Each seizure uncovers astonishing sums, but they barely scratch the surface of what remains hidden. Private vaults, shell corporations, and secret accounts hold secrets that could challenge our understanding of how far-reaching organized crime can be. And still, the legend grows. Escobar's name alone commands attention. Rumors persist of mountain vaults in Medellin, of Miami estates still hiding treasures behind behind walls, of secret compartments designed to survive decades. Every new discovery feeds the myth, a man who lived and died in excess, whose fortune and fear outlasted him. What does it all mean? For some, Escobar's wealth is a cautionary tale of greed and violence. For others, it is a legend of hidden treasure and forbidden fortune. But beneath the allure of cash, gold, and jewels lies the darker truth. Every dollar, every bar, every secret document came at the cost of lives, families, and communities. The buried money is not just wealth. It is history, power, and consequence, wrapped in plastic and sealed in the earth. Even now, investigators and treasure hunters keep searching. Some will find small fortunes, others will find nothing, or worse. For those chasing Escobar's empire, there is no guarantee of safety, of success, or even survival. The empire that Pablo Escobar built is gone, yet it lives on. Hidden in vaults, buried in the jungle, and circulating in the shadows of financial networks, it continues to shape the world long after its creator's death. And the final question remains: how much of Escobar's fortune will ever be found, and who, if anyone, will claim it? Because in the world of Pablo Escobar, the money is never just money. It's power, it's fear, and it's a story that refuses to die. Even decades later, the shadow of Escobar's empire stretches far beyond what anyone imagined. His fortune isn't just buried cash or hidden vaults. It's a blueprint for how wealth, secrecy, and violence intertwine. Modern cartels have studied his methods, adopting his strategies while adapting to digital currencies, offshore accounts, and global banking systems. In many ways, Escobar's ghost guides the underworld of today. Treasure hunters and investigators alike have learned that the hunt for his billions is never straightforward. Every new discovery comes with risk, law enforcement scrutiny, cartel retribution, or simply the curse of being too close to the fortune of a man who built his empire on terror. In Colombia, stories circulate of people stumbling across forgotten barrels only to be forced to hand them over, or worse, disappearing entirely. Across the United States, raids on private vaults and crypto accounts revealed just a fraction of the hidden wealth. Civil forfeiture, undercover operations, and financial surveillance recover assets. But most of Escobar's fortune remains a phantom, moving in the shadows, occasionally surfacing to shock those who thought they understood it all. And yet, the legend fuels obsession. From Medellin to Miami, from jungle farms to luxury estates, the hunt continues. Social media, documentaries, and even TV series keep the story alive, inspiring new generations to dig, search, and uncover the impossible. Every barrel found, every vault cracked, every hidden ledger adds a piece to the puzzle, but no one has ever fully solved it. In the end, Escobar's money is more than wealth. It is history, a warning, a legend, and a challenge. The empire he built, the fear he commanded. Even decades after Pablo Escobar's death, his influence lingers, not just in Colombia, but across the world. Modern cartels, inspired by his methods, have adapted to new technologies, cryptocurrency, encrypted communication, and international banking networks. The old methods of burying cash in barrels may seem quaint, but the strategy behind them, hiding wealth from scrutiny while controlling territory, still guides criminal empires today. Treasure hunters and authorities alike navigate a landscape fraught with risk. Every barrel unearthed, every abandoned safe house, every old ledger provides a glimpse into a past empire, but also serves as a stark warning. In Colombia, locals often stumble upon hidden caches by accident, only to face a dilemma: keep the fortune and risk legal or deadly consequences, or turn it over to the authorities. Across the globe, law enforcement has turned to advanced tools: drones mapping the jungle canopy, ground-penetrating radar scanning remote fields, and digital forensics tracking cryptocurrency flows. Even with these advances, much of Escobar's fortune remains elusive. Each discovery fuels legends, sparks media attention, and inspires new hunts. But it also reminds us that the remnants of a criminal empire are more than just money. They are danger, secrecy, and a legacy of terror. And beyond the money, the lessons remain. Escobar's story illustrates the interplay between wealth, power, and fear, showing how an individual can reshape entire communities and even influence governments. It's a cautionary tale. The pursuit of money without limits can leave destruction in its wake. It also leaves secrets that echo long after the man is gone. Pablo Escobar's fortune is more than hidden cash and buried treasure. It's a window into the extremes of ambition, greed, and ingenuity. From jungle hideouts to Beverly Hills vaults, from underground coffins to digital wallets, the story spans continents, decades, and generations. Even after his death, the empire he built continues to shape lives. Some find sudden wealth, others inherit danger, and communities remain haunted by the shadow of his legacy. For authorities, every discovery is a race against time, a chance to reclaim what was once lost. For treasure hunters, each new lead is a gamble, a shot at fortune or misfortune. Escobar's story is a reminder that wealth is never just about money. It's about influence, secrecy, and the power to shape the world around you. The fortune he amassed, hid, and sometimes destroyed, reflects the duality of genius and ruthlessness. Millions remain buried, legends persist, and the world watches with fascination. Ultimately, the tale of Pablo Escobar's billions isn't just history. It's a living story, a shadow empire that teaches, warns, and mesmerizes. And as long as treasure hunters dig, investigators search, and stories are told, the mystery endures. So
So ask yourself, how much remains hidden, and who will uncover the next secret of the man who became